Hello, welcome back. In today's video, we'll be looking at one of my favorite strokes, push. It will be the first stroke in which we learn about the tangential way of contacting the ball and producing spin, up to a very good level. Perhaps the very first three strokes you play, including service, receive, and the first stroke, will probably be push. Given that, I've found that not a lot of people like to practice push. And hopefully some of the exercises that I show you in this video will make it more fun to practice it. Even at the highest level, having a good push can help you create better opportunities for yourself. I believe that even if you end up deciding not to use it in a match, practicing push helps you get a better understanding of the spin aspect of the game. The prerequisite for this video is that you can hopefully get to 100 rallies in both the forehand and backhand counter at a reasonable pace. With that, let's get down to the very first level. You stand with some empty space in front of you, toss the ball and you hit it with the tangential kind of contact, and you get the ball to come back to you. And how do you spin the ball? Well, you keep your racket at an angle like this, and you toss the ball, and as it's coming down, your aim is to slice the ball like this. And that's it. There's no need to add any extra motion as you're contacting the ball or anything. It's almost as if you're just slicing through. And in order to get more spin, you just move your arm faster. The aim of this exercise is to just forget the table and focus on spinning the ball as much as you can. And remember the tactile sensation of it, so that later on when you do get on the table, you can evaluate yourself whether you're able to spin the ball or not. And this may sound easy, but it's actually kind of hard to not do anything extra. Here's my friend trying to do the same exercise.
回転感じた？ほら、帰ってきたでしょ？そうそうそう。そう。
The difficult part of this exercise is that, unlike the case where you're just tossing the ball, irrespective of your timing, you're kind of guaranteed to hit the ball. But when you're trying to spin it like this, if your timing is a little off, you might just miss the ball entirely. And initially that can be a little frustrating, and people can try to do something extra where they think they're contacting the ball so that they will contact the ball. But my suggestion would be to accept that you will miss the ball, more often than not. And it'll take some time before you can repeatedly hit the ball at the same time and get the ball to spin.
大丈夫。おう、すごい。帰ってきたでしょ。
Next, you want to adjust the angle of your bat and the way you throw the ball onto the bat so that the ball spins in front of you. It might be a little easier if you change your grip slightly from, instead of the shake hand grip, going to the slightly different grip. As you're spinning the ball repeatedly, you can also let it bounce on the floor to actually check how much spin you actually imparted to the ball. As you're doing this repeatedly, there might be times when the ball spins a little less and sometimes when the ball spins a little more. But remember the feeling. The aim of this exercise is to sort of create a mapping between the vibration that you feel and the spin that you produced. Again, this may look like an easy exercise, but it's a little difficult to do it well. You can move on to the next level when you can do this repeatedly without missing the ball and with a good level of spin. And what is a good level of spin? Well, in the very first case where you were just hitting it into the empty space and trying to get the ball to come back to you, if you can get a level of spin close to that, then I would say it's a good level of spin. In this level, we get onto the table. We start off very slow, and the aim over here is to just, impart a little bit spin to the ball and still get the ball to land on the table. It's okay if the ball goes high, and it's okay if you're not creating as much spin as you could, in the previous exercise. Over here, you're just trying to get a feel for how to impart spin to the ball and also get to land on the table. When you're playing push here, the force that you're imparting is not actually 100% tangential. There is some component of the ball in which you're kind of hitting the ball like this, and there's a certain component where you're adding some spin to the ball. Play around with these two components and just get a feel for how the ball behaves. Try to avoid an action where you're just jerking your hand too much or where you're trying to move your wrist too much in order to get more spin on the ball. That is not the aim of this exercise. Once you're comfortable with this, try to reduce the height of your push and also maybe increase the speed a little bit and then aim to get to 100 rallies. Now that you have a general idea of how to put a little spin and get the ball on the table, now we will work on increasing the amount of spin. So for this next exercise, you alternate between one ball where you try to put as much spin on the ball as possible and one ball where you play normally. This can be a little tricky because when you're adding backspin to the ball, because of the Magnus effect, the force acting on the ball will be upwards. So if you try to add too much spin or you try to play too fast, the ball might just end up floating outside the table. Once you get comfortable with that, try playing consecutive pushes where you add a lot of spin to the ball. This can be a little tricky because once you add spin to the ball, the push that you get back will also be slightly different. If you find your push going into the net against heavier backspin, you can always open the angle of your bat so that the force due to the backspin is not really pointing downwards as much. Another thing you can do is keep the old angle and instead change the motion of your bat to be slightly upwards. One thing with opening up the angle of your bat too much is that at some point the force due to the backspin can lead to the ball just flying outside the table.
Mit dem Anti dann abstoppen kann. Da korrigieren noch gar nicht oft mit dem Material.
For the next level, we'll focus on varying the amount of spin that you put on the ball. You'll notice that when you're adding a lot of spin to the ball will kind of go fast. I mean, unless the incoming ball was fast, it's very difficult to, play a push which is slow and also has a lot of spin. So you can play a fast push with a lot of spin. You can play a slow push with little spin. But you can also play a fast push with little spin. A push ball which does not have a lot of spin is sometimes also known as a loose ball. Being able to play a good loose push is helpful in getting the ball to pop up. So in this exercise, try to vary the amount of spin and also maybe the speed of the ball, and see if you can get your partner to dump the ball into the net or get them to pop the ball up. And similarly, when your partner tries to do the same thing, see if you can read the ball and read the spin that is on the ball based on the trajectory of the ball. In general, the contact sound between a ball that has a lot of spin and a ball that does not have a lot of spin is different, but I think trying to predict the level of spin on the sound is not as reliable when you're actually playing a match. But what is helpful is being able to predict the spin based on the trajectory of the ball. And this is one exercise where you can actually train that particular skill of yours. In the next level, you play the same push, but you play one down the line and one cross court. And again, don't move on to the next level until you get 100 rallies in a row. And especially in push, I can get how that can be a little boring. But these repetitions are actually necessary in order to, get you comfortable with this stroke and also get you that level of control that you might be able to use this in a match effectively. Beyond this are the advanced levels. In this exercise, we're going to try and vary the length of our push and also get a little more precise with the placement of our push. Play it close to the net or play it far away from the net or play it in such a way that goes off the sides of the table. in an actual match, it might be difficult to get a direct point with your push, that you chop it so hard that your opponent puts the ball back into the net. But these variations will be really helpful later on because they can help you to prevent your opponent from attacking first. And these things are also really helpful when you want to receive different kinds of serves. Speaking of receiving, at this point, with your grasp on counter and push until so far, I would say you're just in the right position now to learn serves, different kinds of serves, spin, vary the different kinds of contact and see what you can get from your serve. In this next level, you try to vary the timing of your push. So try taking it a little bit early on. Until now you were taking it where the ball would reach its highest point after the bounce. But now try taking it a little bit earlier than that. This kind of push is really helpful in trying to receive serves and trying to give your opponent less time to react.
And again, off a long serve. He got the movement wrong against the fast serve and still managed to keep it short.
Another variation is to take the ball quite late. Playing push like this from the back is somewhat similar to how, a defender would play push. And you would kind of end up playing it a little bit from your side. Again, you can try the two variations of putting spin on the ball and not putting as much spin on the ball. The variation where you're playing from behind and you're not putting as much spin on the ball, that has really helped me so many times in a match scenario. The next one's a fun level. Hopefully, you have pretty good control of push and you can, vary the amount of backspin that you put on the ball. But in this exercise, what you'll try to do is try and put different kinds of spin into the ball. Backspin plus side spin, or something like side spin plus top spin. Something like the strawberry that Anders Lind does.
She's got 6 game points. Maybe even a bigger fan club than she already has.
An interesting effect that you'll hopefully come across over here is, let's say you play side spin and the next ball you play it normally without any side spin. But even then, there'll still be some lingering effect of the side spin you've put on the ball in the first place. And if your opponent is not aware of this, they could end up hitting this ball, which technically you did not put any side spin on, outside. this secondary effect of the lingering side spin in the ball is quite often used by top players after they serve and they're looking for a fifth ball attack. The last level actually tests counter and push together, and I would recommend that you actually practice this against someone with long pips if you can. So the aim here is to play a push, get a push back, and then you lift the push using an almost clean contact, kind of like counter, and then your opponent hits it back with counter, and then you play counter again, and the very next ball you again play push, kind of like a chopper, and then you play one rally of push and then back to counter and so on. One thing that this hopefully trains you to do is decide whether you're going to play push or counter on a particular ball by looking at the trajectory of the ball and guessing what kind of spin it has. If you master this exercise, then you'll not be worried about playing long pips again. And that was the last level for this video. I mean, there's sure a few other variations, the kind of where you play a push against an incoming topspin like a defender would. I hope this video gave you new fun ways to practice push and also a little bit of motivation to do so, because push is one of those strokes where you can actually play slow enough and also try and comprehend all that's going on, really practice intentionally. And I hope you take that with you and discover new things for yourself. See you next time.